Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Valerie Z, the founder of Spiritual Cardio, a 10-week group coaching program that teaches women how to make peace with their inner truth and practice self-love, where we heal in community by interrogating our inner demons until they lose power over us. I'm bringing you the powerful spiritual practices that helped birth my transformation because I want the same for you. I'm going to teach you how to build a love story with yourself and your inner child. So let's go. I'm sure you guys know by now how much I love doing this show. I pour my heart and soul into each episode to create a ripple effect of healing and self-awareness in the world. And you guys can help me make that little ripple into a wave. So I ask that if you find value in this episode, or if you had any aha moments, or if you think people need to hear this, or if the show helps you navigate your life in a more positive direction, please share the show. It would mean so much to me if you would do that. And now let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming back and tuning in to the Spiritual Cardio podcast. This is episode 17. And this week is so special because the podcast is 1 year old. Can you believe that? Time flies by so fast. That's why it's really important to start your personal growth journey, because time is going to go by anyway. So you're either going to be stuck in old patterns, stuck in old loops and negative thought cycles, or you can just start your inner work because time is going to freaking fly by. And that's why I put the podcast together. Is because I want to help you through that process. That's why I share the wisdom of spiritual cardio coaching on the podcast. So I hope you guys are finding value in what I'm providing here. So let's go ahead and get started. Clarity through sobriety. One of the things we have to take into account when we're doing our inner work is what our addiction is. How are you numbing? How are you escaping yourself? How are you escaping your life? For me, it was a lot of alcohol. For you, it might be something else. And that can be an addiction to being busy, work, alcohol, food, toxic people, toxic relationships, gambling, shopping. What is it? And this takes some self-reflection. This clarity through sobriety is not easy. We're stuck in our denial thought pattern. So to get clear on how it is that you're numbing or escaping yourself is a very introspective process, but it's also something that requires honesty with self, because nobody wants to admit to themselves that they have an addiction, because then the next thing is, well, what am I going to do about it? And a lot of people don't want to do anything about it because it's comfortable, right? And it helps you numb and it helps you forget. But the thing is that it keeps us stuck. So that's why it's important to get clarity through self-reflecting, but the clarity you get through sobriety and finally halting the numbing cycle is so powerful, because you get to know yourself on a deeper level. You get to know what it is that you're running from. And pain, right, or suffering fogs our perception. It doesn't allow us to see clearly. It doesn't allow us to fully experience life. And our vices, whatever that vice is, food, drugs, alcohol, whatever, it waters that fog. So the question for you is, how can you deeply tap into yourself if the road is muddy with this fog that we create through numbing ourselves through alcohol, food, drugs, whatever. How do we deeply tap in? Well, that's through clarity, right? That's through finally stopping that numbing cycle so that we can figure out what the hell it is that we're running from. And whatever that poison or vice of choice is, it's really just watering the roots of our suffering. It just keeps us in a cycle of numbing, then we forget, and then we're back to it again the next day. So it never quite goes away. The only way it can go away is by working on it, and that's through sobriety. So how can you tap in to your convictions while numb? How do you know what your convictions are while numb? And in order to develop our convictions, in order to tap into them, first we have to get to know ourselves on a deeper level, and that happens through clarity. That happens through finally stopping the numbing and figuring out what we're running from in the first place. What are we trying to numb in the first place? So sobriety is powerful. And I've said this before in previous episodes, sobriety combined with inner work is a magic tool. It really will transform your life. And that's the testimony of my story. That's why I feel so passionate about this stuff, because you will transform your life if you commit to doing the work and gaining that clarity. And that means finally stopping the numbing cycle. That means finally stopping the distraction from your life and from these inner demons, inner discomfort that we tend to shy away from. And we become addicts when we know something, it drives us to become someone we're not, but we do it anyway. And what I mean by that is when I was fully versed in my drinking lifestyle, I would turn into a different person while drunk. And the next day, I would wake up just drenched in shame, wondering what the hell happened. How did I get home? Did I make a fool of myself? Did I make out with anybody? And it was so exhausting towards the end of my drinking days that I started paying attention to how bad I felt the next day after drinking, because it just became a shameful morning every single time. So when we know something drives us to become someone we're not, but we do it anyway, like that is addiction. So start paying attention to how you are letting yourself down. Because if you start paying attention to that and you start noticing these patterns about yourself and you don't like it and it makes you unhappy, it's really hard to unsee that. So that's step one, is recognizing your cycles, recognizing your behavior patterns. And gaining insight happens when that fog starts to clear. You will start recognizing your patterns. You will start getting to know why you were driven to drink or consume that vice in the first place. But it takes time, right? But you will start getting these spiritual downloads about yourself. That's the beauty about clarity, is that you start having these aha moments about why you were doing certain things or why you felt how you felt when you were driven to numb yourself. It starts becoming clear. Then you start tapping into yourself spiritually, because you're doing the work also, and that is going to help you tap into your convictions, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you're curious about. And your curiosity leads you to something significant, leads you to something meaningful. The most divine insight for me was recognizing that God used my darkness and turned it into purpose. And that's the 10-week program of spiritual cardio coaching. And that's this podcast, right? This would not be possible had I not gotten my clarity through getting sober and then also doing my inner work. So again, I've said this in the past, if you are curious about doing your inner work and how spirituality can help you deeply tap into yourself and help you move forward, then start with episode 1 and work your way up from there, because there's so many insights on here that can help you get started on your journey. And by getting clear-minded, we get clear-hearted and we start getting spiritually aligned. Right? We start tapping into our soul. We start tapping into these divine aha moments, is what we'll call them. You'll start noticing little patterns of things that get you excited. I started remembering my gifts and my purpose grew evident. When I first got sober, I remembered how much I loved writing. I had stopped writing for many years, but when I decided to stop drinking, I remembered that I had this burning desire to be an author. So you start getting these tidbits of information and you start executing on them. And it takes time, right? For some people, process might be a little bit faster, and that's okay. But take the time to get to know yourself. That's the purpose of clarity, is to get to know yourself, to get to know your wounds, learn from them, figure out what conceived them, befriend them, so that you can ultimately release them. Clarity is a powerful tool, and getting sober just opens up the door to spiritual ascension. Give yourself the opportunity to get to know yourself deeply. Like the very first time I talked about my story was in November of 2013. I was on a dangerous downward spiral as my story was unraveling. And it just, as it bled out of me, I sunk deeper into alcohol. I sunk deeper into drinking. So from 2013, I didn't start trying to get sober until 2016. So 3 years later. And that was a process in itself, because I didn't commit to sobriety until 2018. So from 2013 to 2018, when I started recognizing my patterns and trying to make sense of why I was living my life the way I was living it, those 5 years were very careless and crazy. But I was noticing my patterns, therefore I wanted to change them. It just took 5 years. And I share that timeline with you because I want you to know that healing inner work isn't linear. Like, I didn't wake up in 2013 and say, I want to heal, and I got sober. No, like, it was a very crazy, messy time for 5 years until I finally committed. So you've got to stay true to what your heart is screaming out that it wants. If it wants peace, if it wants love from you, you've got to start paying attention to that. And it doesn't have to take you 5 years to figure out how you're abusing yourself, right? Like this, I use my story as an example, but if it takes you less time and you commit today to doing your inner work and getting sober, that is phenomenal. But give yourself grace if it is messy for you too, because you can't beat yourself up to the best version of yourself. And just figure out how you are hurting yourself. Figure out how your unconscious behaviors that you want to do over and over again are hurting you, but you do it anyway. That's a pattern of self-destruction. That's a demonstration of destructive patterns. And then whatever happens during that destructive pattern is mirroring what you have on the inside. If you can just take the time to self-reflect on what your life looks like, then you're going to be able to change what you're willing to see, right? You can't change what you can't see. And distraction delays healing. Sobriety is going to give you the priceless gift of clarity. And if you're willing to take that clarity and do something with it, your life has to change. your life will change for the better. And then maybe personal growth just becomes your addiction instead of numbing. Clarity it elevates your senses. And there's a sense of security that you start providing yourself with. You start building your confidence back up. You start cultivating self-love because you're now taking the time to get to know every aspect of yourself, including your inner demons. Those things that drive you to destroy yourself are now going to become your allies because now you're pulling them closer as you are present for your life. You're not trying to numb them and water them down or silence them. You will befriend them so that you can heal them. That's how this works. Hey ladies, are you curious about doing your inner work? Are you ready to dig deep and start loving yourself on a spiritual level? Are you interested in reaching a higher level of consciousness? If so, then this may be just what you're looking for. Spiritual Cardio is a course in transformational wisdom that combines traditional spiritual practices with real life experience. At Spiritual Cardio, we heal in community where we can be vulnerable and raw, because when one woman speaks her truth, she begins to heal, and she opens the door for another woman to speak hers. At Spiritual Cardio, every lesson is designed with you in mind. That includes practical tools with relatable real-life examples. At Spiritual Cardio, we help identify and release energetic blocks so that you can become the architect of your destiny. Head over to valeriezapeta.com to read the powerful testimonials from previous clients and register for an upcoming session. Group and one-on-one coaching is available. All sessions are live and in real time. Now back to the show. Everybody has a different addiction, right? The numbing. And I use different examples because it can be anything. It can be shopping, gambling, food, right? Alcohol, pills. But if you can conquer that, if you can start witnessing your patterns and accept that they exist, then conquering that will give you the strength to navigate just the stormiest skies. And you will start to see the beauty in life. You will start to appreciate the simplicity of life. Sobriety teaches you courage. The courage to fight from within and absorb your BS. The courage to fight from within and also start taking accountability for your BS. The stuff that isn't serving you. My drinking days were crazy. One time I woke up from a blackout in the passenger seat of a spinning car that had just crashed on the 101 freeway in downtown LA. If you're listening to this and you're from California and familiar with the 101 freeway, you know how busy that freeway is all the time. And this was on a Sunday afternoon. But I woke from a blackout and the car was spinning because it had just hit the center divider. And that didn't even wake me up to the fact that why are you blacking out? Like, you shouldn't be drinking like that. And then several years down the line, I found myself in a toxic situation. It was a toxic relationship, and all I kept hearing was my inner voice saying, "This isn't a life." And after hearing that voice for 2 years repeatedly tell me this isn't a life, I finally had enough. And I left, but then I was newly single and alcoholic, and that's a dangerous recipe for a woman. But had I not left that situation and found myself single and a blackout alcoholic, I wouldn't have started noticing my patterns. So it was sort of a domino effect as to how I was able to wake up to my destructive behaviors that were hurting me. So if you're finding yourself stuck in a rut and you're noticing that every weekend or every other day, you're finding yourself stuck in shame because of something you did because of something you chose to do, but you're not willing to let that thing go. For me, it was the alcohol. I was not willing to let it go, but I kept living these cycles of dangerous weekends or nights out. But so crazy because I didn't care what was going to transpire as long as I was able to drink. So finally, it got dangerous enough where I started paying attention, and the shame became too unbearable, where it got my attention. And so then what happened? I recognized that I was being called to go inward, to look at myself through a different lens, to finally stop burying or watering down what it was that was driving me to drink so much. And that's how you start the inner work process. It's like you can't own your story by running from it or numbing it. And this work is so beautiful, you guys, because then you also tap into what you value, what you truly value in life, what it is that you want out of life. The numbing stops becoming a value. The addiction or whatever that vice is for you stops becoming the value. And instead, your value is finding your self-worth, respecting yourself finally, and getting down to the nitty-gritty of why you chose to live that way in the first place. And that's how you start building a foundation within yourself. And your foundation will get you through the storms of life. And your foundation will start with the clarity. Got to get to know yourself to observe yourself in order to heal yourself and freaking love yourself, right? But love yourself on a spiritual level. Just as we go to the gym and take care of our physical bodies, just as we drink our natural juices or our green smoothies, right? We also have to nurture our spiritual wellness. That's why this is called spiritual cardio, because just as we nurture our physical body, we need to nurture our spiritual well-being. We need to make it a point to connect with our soul so that we can align with our gifts and our purpose in life. And sobriety is one way of doing that. You tap into the sacred truth of you, and slowly you can start aligning with God's will for your life. It's a win-win. So I'll end with a prayer. Dear God, show us who we are underneath this emotional mud. Reveal our warrior heart so that we can break free of suffering that has kept us stuck in mediocrity. Use us as your vessel of hope and strength. We are ready to serve your will and honor our truth by doing our inner work. Show us what our holy gifts are so that we may be of service and exude your holy grace around us. Amen. And that's all I have for this episode. If you're ready to do some inner work and want to join me in spiritual cardio coaching, please head on over to valeriezapeta.com. I'll include all links in the show notes. And of course, if you'd like to support the show, there's several ways you can do that. Share the episode with someone you love. Follow @Spiritual Cardio on social media. And make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform and the YouTube channel. And if you'd like to donate to the show via valeriezapeta.com, anything helps, right? This is a self-funded show. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Hey, thank you for showing up and spending some time with me. If you loved this episode, please make sure to subscribe. And for exclusive content, you can sign up for my newsletter at valeriezapeta.com. I'll see you guys at the next show.